Well, we are back for episode 8 of The Last of Us. We don't have a lot left to go now, and this is definitely an episode that is probably one of the best episodes, and it definitely picks up the pace from what we've seen in the previous episode, because the previous episode was definitely a drag. I think we could all admit that. We didn't really get a lot out of it. Whereas this one, as I say, it picks up the pace. We actually start having things moving towards the end now, but we're just gonna jump into it because I've got a lot on the day, and I'd rather just dive in. So yeah, we start off with David. So if we've played the game, we all know where this is going, and it's pretty much it's not that different from what we actually have in the game. It's very much scene for scene. There's not much difference in it really, other than there's like a few things that get omitted out of it, but other than that, it's generally follows the same as what the game does with this part. And I wouldn't say they've rushed it. I have seen that going about that. Oh, they've rushed it now. Whereas I think this episode is probably the best paced out of all the episodes. Because the worry was, because we've spent episodes on, we had episode 3, and then the previous episode, that we'd have to rush the end, but this feels fine to me. I wouldn't really call it rushed. But well, I suppose we're gonna have to see how long the actual final episode is, because I've heard some people saying it's 45 minutes. So I don't know how long that's going to be, but for this, again, the pace seems fine to me. So you've got David, who's reading out a passage from the Bible. This girl's crying, so it's her dad has died. So she wants to bury him, and David says, "Oh, we can't do that now. The ground is too cold to dig." I'm like, yeah, that's an excuse, I guess. We all know what's coming anyway. So yeah, they kind of start off and show David as this. Oh, he seems like a nice guy, and then gradually over time, it starts to come out who he really is. But he's like the leader of this group. He's like a preacher. That's what he calls himself. Well, I don't know why we froze there. And it did take me a while to realise that was Trey. Why am I Trey? Troy Baker. I was getting it completely messed up there. It took me a while to notice. Oh, that's fucking Joel from the game. It wasn't until he put his hat on I kind of looked. Oh yeah, that is. We've still yet to see the actress for Ellie in the game. I don't know. I'm not really sure how she's going to play into it, unless I've missed it in other episodes. I'm not too sure, but they're having a conversation where David's like, I sense doubt in there. Specifically talking to James, which is that's of course who Troy Baker plays. He's like, I still believe, and then they go off to hunt, because they haven't got a lot of food in the place. They're gonna have to ration people. They've had to, as it later comes out, do certain things that, we'll get there. We will get there soon enough. So, you've got Ellie sort of tending to Joel. You can see this infection starting to spread now with all the, the yellow pus. So she's kind of desperate. So she ends up going out to hunt, look for medicine, that sort of stuff. And you kind of just see her in this part, kind of using the sort of skills that Joel's taught her. She spots a rabbit first, and then spots a deer, hits it, and then it's one of those ones where it runs off, and it later dies. So she goes off to look for that, but it's turned up at David and James's feet, because they're in the same area. They went out hunting. So they've just happened to cross this. So then Ellie comes up, gets them to drop their weapons. David's like, we can trade. Because David wants this deer to take back to obviously feed his group. He's kind of like, I'll trade you for the deer. She's like, do you have medicine? So he gets James to run back for some penicillin. David stays there with Ellie, and she's definitely covering certain stuff by making sure there's no bullets left in these rifles. So again, just sort of using the skills that Joel has now taught her. So David says, "Oh, well, we'll drag this in there. It's cold out," and they just have a conversation where David's just trying to convince her that he's actually, this nice guy. And from what we've seen so far, he is. But again, it's gradually gonna change. And in this part, it comes out. Oh, we had a group. We had a group of people that went out, and one of the guys got killed, and we were told it was a crazy man and a young girl. So it turns out this is the people they met in episode 6. Yeah, episode 6 turns out to be from David's group. So they're all kind of, he's like, I think things are, because he's like a godly man, at least what he's shown so far, he's like, everything happens for a reason. James comes back with the penicillin, and David lets her go. Obviously to follow her the next day. But she gets there and gives him some penicillin and then falls asleep on him. And then you have parts like this where you're starting to wonder. You're starting to see these boxes of meat get carried about. And some of the cooks ask, oh, what is it? And this guy kind of takes a pause and he's just like, venison. It's like, yeah, I'm sure it's fucking venison. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with a certain flesh. But they don't really show us that until until this part, really. So David comes in and says, "Oh, we found the the girl. Like, if you're hearing rumors about us coming across this girl, it's true. We're gonna go out and follow her tracks in the morning. It will be easier to follow where she went in the snow." I'm like, you better hope it doesn't snow then, because if it does snow, you're probably fucked. So yeah, you definitely be hoping for it not for it not snowing during the night. So they're gonna go out there, and then the little girl we seen earlier says, "Oh, you should kill them. You should kill them both." So this is when she gets bitch slapped to fuck. What a backhander it was. Bang! There you go. So yeah, and then he sort of bends down to her. He says, "I know you think you don't have a father anymore." But essentially, what we get out of David, he sees himself as sort of this group's father. That's kind of the idea he has in his head. So he's like, don't disrespect your father when he's talking. So that's what she got slapped for. So now you're starting to see the other side of him start to come out. And then they all sit down for a nice, lovely meal. I wonder what it is they're eating. I wonder why they are focusing so hard on the meat in the bowls. Could it be that they are eating human meat? Quite possibly. It's quite possibly, considering how they just focus on these people eating out these bowls. So Ellie wakes up the next morning, puts another bit of penicillin in him. She goes out. Yeah, she goes out and notices some birds in the distance fly off out the trees. So straight then she's like, "What's going on?" So she goes and has a look, and it's David's group that have turned up. So she has to come up with she has to be a bit quick on her feet. So she leaves Joel with a knife and says, "You need to stay awake. If they make it down here, you need to be able to kill them." So you can see that he's kind of struggling to stay awake, but he's definitely becoming a bit more conscious. So she takes the horse out and decides to lure them away from the house. So they start shooting at her and all that. Well, David says, "I want her alive." He doesn't want to kill her. There is a reason for that, because David's a bit of a freak, as we'll soon find out. So yeah, she's like, gliding across there, and they shoot the horse, and she falls off it. And you can kind of see the sort of disobedience within David's group, because they're so thirsty for their vengeance that they just want to kill her. But David comes along and says, "Don't fucking kill her." He wants something out of her. So he takes her off and he says, "Oh, if you want your vengeance so much, go and take it." So they go off to try and find where Joel is. So that, they come in, start looking about, and he hears them move the thing that Ellie put in front of the door. So that's when he kind of comes to a bit more. And then the guy comes down and Joel stabs him, but it's definitely a struggle for Joel. That's what you see of him throughout this episode. Everything's definitely a struggle. So it's not like he's just woken up and he's, fighting man now. So he kills him. And then we go to Ellie, who's now in this cage. And you essentially just have David trying to convince her to join him. So he's kind of just buttering her up, saying, you're loyal, I can tell you're smart and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, he wants Ellie to join them. So then you have this guy that goes. Well, Joel must have dragged this guy's body out, essentially a trap to catch another guy. And then he wakes up to Joel torturing a guy. He wants to find out where they've taken the girl. They're like, "We don't know any girl." So Joel puts a knife in his knee and says, "You better tell me, or I'll pop your fucking kneecap off." I hate when that shows up. See the thought of that, a fucking knife in at your kneecap. Oof, that's got to be a painful one. So the guy points to, on a map, where this resort is. They say it's in a resort. So he points to it, and then Joel bludgeons the other guy to death. He's not fucking around. So yeah, he kills that guy once he's sort of got the information. And then we go back to Ellie trying to find a way out. She notices something on the floor. I don't know if we can see it, but there's like an ear. There's like a human ear over on the floor. So David realizes, oh shit, she's fucking noticed. So now he's just kind of like, you need to join me. Look what's happened. Look what I've ended up doing. But this is, of course, where they cut people up. So Ellie's like, "Fuck off! I'm not eating your stuff." He's just like, I see me in you. I've got a violent heart. If I was to let you out of this cage right now, and put a knife in your hand, you'd kill me. I mean, he's not wrong. So then you start to kind of see what it is he actually wants. He wants to build a life with Ellie. That's what he's into. That's sort of, well, I mean, that was the same in the game. That they do have this scene in the game. I think it is different dialogue, but it's mostly the sort of same actions. He puts his hand there. He puts his hand on Ellie's hand, and then Ellie breaks his fucking finger. So he's just kind of like, "You little, see you next Tuesday." And he's like, how did you put it? Tiny little pieces. So he's now had enough of her. He's like, "I'm just going to fucking kill you. I'm going to cut you up." So you have Joel finally reaching the town, and then he realizes, oh shit, these are cannibals. They've got the dead horse in there, and yeah, he finds a bag and all that. And you've got, where are they? And you've got men hanging up on the back wall. Yeah, there they are. So that's what they've been eating from. So they come in and they drag Ellie out of the cage, put her on there, and then she says, "Oh, I'm infected." So it's the same. It just plays out exactly the same as the game. Really, she says, "I'm infected," and then they kind of stop a bit. David puts like down the sort of the cleaver right at her head, and then she fucking kills Joel. She kills original Joel. By putting it, I don't know why I can't get to it. But she puts it right in his neck, and then we have the final part play out where David's chasing her down. She grabs this bit of wood, and of course that sets the fire. I have seen people saying, "Well, surely the townspeople would have come," but I wouldn't necessarily say they come that quickly. I mean, it'd take a while for the fire to actually appear, be sort of apparent. And they did show you at the start that the townspeople live sort of roundabout, but they don't live right next to this place. So it was just one thing I seen, and I'm like, maybe, but I think it's fine in this. So he's hunting her down and all that, and then he says, "Oh, I've changed my mind. I don't want to kill you anymore." But he's just trying to lure her out. He's like, "You don't know what I could have given you," and all that. He does go a bit cartoony villain at certain points. And then until she runs out with a knife and stabs him. I think they've done it a bit better here than in the game, because in the game you stab him like 5 times and it does fuck all to him. So they do have it a little bit, makes a bit more sense here. And then she's, I think it has the same issue as in the game. Look, the sort of cleaver falls that he has over there, and Ellie starts to crawl to it. It's like, surely you must see that. You must see that, David. But he just decides to kick her in the ribs, and then he gets on top of her, and you can kind of see where this is going. They don't go that far in the game. It's obvious that in the game that David wants to, he wants something with Ellie, but he doesn't quite go as far as he gets a bit rapey, shall we say? And then he gets his comeuppance when Ellie just starts smashing his head in. She heads out there, and then Joel turns up. It's quite a touching scene. He's like, "Come here, baby girl," and all that. And that ends the episode. So now all we got to wait for is episode 9, the finale, and it's again, as I say, it's going to be interesting how they end it. I'm not quite sure if they're going to change it from the games. That's definitely the worry. We don't want to see any zebras showing up. That will not be good for season 2. But again, I'm honestly not that bothered about season 2. As long as get a good season 1 about the game that I actually like, I'm fine with that. I'm not really worried about where it goes. But we'll see how they end it. That's really all I'm looking for now. If they end it pretty much the same as the game, or just as good, it'll be a good season of television. But we shall finish there. But that is episode 8. Only one episode to go now.